So before we get to the main event of the scoops, this is the co-main event. WWE once again is doing WWE things. They have reportedly been talking into bringing back Tommy End, aka Aleister Black. And it's like, huh? Like what? Like, wait. The man y'all just released last week? Y'all already talking to him to bringing him back? The
fuck? Yeah. I did. I saw this today. And now from what I heard about it, basically them stating that some of the officials in the back felt like he was let go before he should have been, which is technically true. It's true for a lot of people that they tend to let go. I don't see why it would be any different this time. What made them have a conscience? It had to be between, I'd say, Trips, Paul. Trips is Paul, but Paul, Heyman, and Helmsley. Somebody had to basically get in Vince's ear at that point. If in fact this is true,
because I know he personally thanked Heyman. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was Heyman who probably went to him and was like, "We didn't try to let this gimmick play out a little bit. Like we kind of, I understand he was just coming back, but we didn't give a chance to let the Dark Father gimmick take root to see how it was going to do."
Yeah, so,
because I think it could have went in an interesting direction. And from that, I have two different split-offs. Do you want the Jobber Tears podcast split off, or do you want Booker T's split off?
I feel like Books is probably going to piss me off. So because look, and let me just preface this: nothing against Booker. It's just he just seems like he's just like a mouthpiece for WWE half the time when I do listen to him, But good Houstonian.
Well, let's go with Book right quick.
Let's definitely do that one.
Basically, he felt this was only geared to Aleister. Aleister didn't have the it factor.
Bullshit.
Yeah, he had the cool entrance and the cool music, but he didn't have the it factor. And this was said on his podcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna call bullshit on that because whereas you could say that in certain cases, let's take NXT for instance, when he got hurt, he was still doing his thing and he was being built up in a way to even during that time, people were talking about him like potentially being the next Undertaker type character. And so people just don't say that for somebody who doesn't have the it factor, especially when you're talking about the professional wrestler.
Yes.
In the Undertaker. So that's why I call BS. Now, I don't know if Booker actually watches NXT religiously like that, or rather he didn't in the past, but the comparisons between what Hunter did with Aleister Black in NXT and then what they did with him on the main roster, he had more start-stops on the main roster than he did with his injury on NXT.
A lot of start-stops. I mean, he was brought in as a tag team wrestler with Ricochet. Then all of a sudden that just split. Then for like 7 weeks, he was asking people to come knock on his door and ask for a fight. Then we got a match with him and Cesaro. Then we got him and Buddy Murph. The next thing you know, he was just here, there. Then all of a sudden, he disappeared again, came back, got his eye taken out by Seth Rollins. Then got injured, now was coming back and then released. So I
definitely don't agree with that statement from Booker. But and this is one of the reasons why it's hard for me to agree with Booker at the time because of that. Because you think about it now. Once he got the release, us other people in IWC that were talking about this already was fantasy booking him and where he can go. Yes.
Hell, we did it.
So yeah, so you can't say somebody that doesn't have it can't do that. Now granted, there's a lot of people that we can say that got released, like hell, Braun Strowman. Nobody's really going to fantasy book him anywhere because there's no real oomph in that. Yeah, he's a big guy, cool, but I mean, he's really not going to push the needle on any promotion that he goes to, either way, shape, or form. But Aleister Black, you could think about Aleister Black. One, we even said New Japan. We said, we played around with the idea of him possibly leading the Dark Order, which I thought was fantastic. Impact, just every fucking thing. There's nowhere that he couldn't go. And you can't say that about somebody who doesn't have it. So, yeah, definitely bullshit.
Now, in the Jobbers Tears podcast, shouts out to the Jobber Tears podcast, they said the reason why they think a lot of NXT talent fails on the main roster is because they don't evolve their gimmicks.
Like the superstars or backstage.
When the NXT roster goes to the main roster, they don't evolve their gimmicks as superstars. They just stay what they were in NXT, and that's why they think a lot of NXT people fail on the main roster. It's because they don't evolve the gimmick. They don't evolve themselves.
Yeah, now I'm going to say 50-50 on that as far as me agreeing, because I do believe if you don't fight for your character, then there's really nothing. Then you're pretty much at the mercy of whoever books
whatever
your
they
shit.
give you. Yeah.
But at the same time, that anybody from backstage, Vince, Dunn, Pritchard, all those included, they're looking at them when they're at NXT and they bring them up and then want them to do something different for the most part. I mean, take, case in point, Keith Lee. Nobody had an issue with his attire. Then you come back and then you want to change it, and then you want to kind of gimp him in a certain way. The same thing with anybody that was in Retribution. No, you could have had a cool gimmick with that squad, but you didn't have to sit there and completely change them up as if we didn't see them like weeks prior on NXT.
Especially Dijakovic.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my thing.
And and I think that's kind of like, I'm not saying that's not a bad statement, but I mean, let's take a look at people now. Jeff Hardy never truly evolved his gimmick, and he's over like Roman.
Absolutely.
I mean, Taker never evolved the gimmick. He was, other than when he went to American Badass, but Taker never evolved the gimmick, really. He was still the dead man. If anything, he took stuff away because he wasn't shooting the lightning anymore and all that other stuff. So, there were some people who, let's truly face it. People like The Rock, people like Stone Cold, they kind of still stayed versions of themselves. They never truly, the only person who truly really evolved gimmicks was Jericho. Jericho was one of the few wrestlers who truly evolved gimmicks. So I think what tends to happen is you bring up wrestlers who y'all bring them up to fill in the roster, but then you bring them up, then it's like, we really had stuff for you for the first 3 weeks, but we really don't know what to do with you now. So go out there and fight Sheamus for 2 weeks, or go fight this person for 5 weeks, and maybe we'll figure it out. So yes, I can see that with them saying evolving the gimmick, but considering there's not too much gimmicks to evolve from, because if we look at the last, like Damian Priest, what could Damian Priest evolve into? Like his being, what can he truly evolve into?
Yeah, and that's funny you said that, because even with him in NXT, I never really understood what his gimmick was, and I realized after a certain point, he was just like the party guy.
Yeah,
is what they made it seem. But just a badass party guy. But it didn't translate when he first came out, because when he came out the first time with the whole flaming arrow stuff, I was like, well, okay, where were they going with this?
Exactly.
But, But you're right. I don't know what you can do with him with that gimmick other than just completely abolishing and changing to something completely different.
Yeah, like I mean, if you go from debuting with Bad Bunny and all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden you win a lumberjack match with zombies, that's not on you. You
No.
know, that's not on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I
no.
mean, I think personally what tends to happen is that I don't know how many writers are hired by WWE or what they have. The problem is that we know ratings drives the shows.
True.
And you know your money makers on Raw are New Day, Orton, Drew, Charlotte, maybe Rhea, maybe Asuka, and a few here and there. The problem is those are the ones that's going to really get the screen time.
Yeah, which is sad because Hurt Business was generating ratings, maybe almost. It could have been almost close to. Well, Hurt Business did for Raw what Roman did for SmackDown, and they kind of abolished that because that was they were the talk of the town. They were saying they were the best. That was the best stable on Raw at at modern times. Bam! See that? We said I said boom. I said boom when he came in.
Just like Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania grand entrance.
Anyways, well, that's good.
To currently fill you in, Mr. Yeager, we are discussing the fact that WWE was in talks to bringing back Aleister Black already.
Huh.
And then from there, it spawned off on. It spawned off on. Let me get your opinion on this, but it spawned off on Booker T saying Aleister Black didn't have the it factor. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think Booker T needs to be put in a home right there next to Vince.
That's almost kind of like what Lip said without saying that.
No, I'll just say it. I'm not going to pull it.
And then from there, it spun off to me talking about the Jobber Tears podcast, and they were saying they think the issue with a lot of NXT people coming to the main roster is that they don't evolve their gimmicks.
You don't need to. NXT makes them have like perfect gimmicks almost.
And that's what we was kind of talking about. Like, if you just get booked in, because we was like Damian Priest, for instance, we was like, how can you evolve his gimmick when you team him up with Bad Bunny? Few months later, boom, he's having a lumberjack match with zombies. That's not on him at that point,
No, that's creative's fault.
Yeah. So, but basically, I don't know how many writers and creators are there and creative, but the problem is that I don't think it would be necessarily that hard to book feuds or to just book wrestlers. Like, feuds doesn't have to have titles behind them or something. Like, you could easily say, hey, Ricochet and Ali, who've been killing it on main event and stuff, y'all feud because y'all want to be the best high flyer on Raw. So go out there and prove it. Everything doesn't have to have title implications behind it or some type of grand scheme behind it. It's just you can't just keep calling up all of these wrestlers and do nothing with them.
Exactly. But they want to keep on hiring new talent, so they keep everything a revolving door. And look, if you're not going to use them, I just never understood Aleister Black and Strowman getting released. I mean, even to the point of also Lana and to, I guess, Aleister. I mean, was Buddy Murphy in any kind of a story related thing?
Not since he tried to rejoin Seth.
Yeah.
Okay.
When Seth came back. But after that, I don't even think he was seen on SmackDown.
You see, well then, yeah, you understand things like that. But Lana, Strowman, Aleister Black, they were all pretty prominently in their respective shows.
Yes.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense to be letting go of them. And now you got, what is it, seller's remorse, essentially?
Basically.
All right, come on. Stop playing hot potato with people. Either keep them or let other and other companies utilize them to a much better extent.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I fuck WWE, man.